this was the cult classic anime that everyone kept on telling me to watch? Elfen Lied is a 2004 horror science fiction anime directed by Mamoru Kanbi and is based on the manga of the same name written by Lin Okamoto.
The anime centers around the interactions between human and Diclonius. Dicloniuses are a newly mutated species and can be identified by their horn-like protrusions on their head in the presence of telekinetic invisible arms called vectors. The main Diclonius is Lucy, who escapes from the experimental institution where she is being detained. During her escape, she gets shot in the head and develops a secondary childlike personality known as New. Lucy is found by two college locals, cousins Kota and Yuka. They take her in and become involved with the government's brutal attempts to recapture Lucy, and the often murderous Dicloniuses that they come across.
It was well known at the time for its extreme graphic violence and nudity, and, fun fact, it was actually the Duffer Brothers' main influence when they created Stranger Things. Well, there aren't that many, sorry to say, let's start out with the positives as always. My favorite thing about Elfen Lied is its excellent soundtrack.
Aside from the usual type of piano and violin pieces that can be found in anime, it features a lot of operatic Greek and Latin pieces. It's 100% an atmospheric soundtrack, and it really works. The most prevalent piece in the anime is in the opening of the anime itself, a German song dating back to 1780 and is a poem written by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. Like the title of the anime, Elfen Lied is German for elf song. This song is amazing and is full of emotion. My favorite part of each episode was the opening song, as the visuals that it uses along with the song are beautiful. The shots used in the opening are based on the painting of Gustave Clement. The opening is downright inspired and easily the best part of the anime.
While I do have some gripes with the animation, which I'll talk about later, I did find myself enjoying the background animation of the anime.
The backgrounds of each scene look pretty and full of detail. Things are placed strategically and sometimes look like a beach or royal town in Japan. There's something authentic about the background animation in the show, so I felt like I had to give it some praise.
And while not for everyone, I found myself enjoying the over-the-top gory and violent moment. I like violent shit, guts and body parts flying, all that stuff. And Elfen Lied definitely doesn't disappoint in this department.
I like how they didn't feel like they had to hold back on the violence from the original manga, and no one is safe from Lucy's wrath. Armed men, women and children at a festival, and bullying children. The only thing she won't kill is dogs, as it should be. Though the anime does use a bit of animal cruelty in one scene with a small dog like it's fucking JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but it's mostly shown off screen.
I'm a fan of over-the-top violence, and I can't deny that Elfen Lied delivered in that department. In the beginning, I did actually get into the anime in the first 8 minutes of the first episode. It's an amazing and inspired series of chaotic events.
Two security guards mess up and accidentally let out a young naked masked woman from her captivity. She gives her thanks to them by brutally killing them with a pen. As she walks through the facility, doors try to lock her out, but she just blows them apart with some invisible force. Tons and tons of armed guards try to stop her with an assortment of weapons, but she kills every last one of them. A clumsy secretary appears at the wrong place at the wrong time, gets her head ripped off, and her body is used as a shield from a rain of bullets. The masked woman makes her way outside at the edge of the cliff. A sniper from the building hits its target, causing the helmet on the woman to crack apart, revealing long, flowing purple hair as the woman falls into the water. This opening 8 minutes, it's freaking amazing, and showcases Elfen Lied's best merits. Slow but tense pacing, a compelling score, brutal violence and dismemberment, and an underlying feeling of mystery that makes you want to know who this masked naked woman is.
If the entire anime was like this first 8 minutes, we might have had something special here. But unfortunately, it's all downhill from here. So on to the negatives. The first is a small one, and it's the fact that the character animation isn't really good.
Characters' faces usually make weird and awkward expressions, proportions don't always look right, and the character designs are just kind of bland. The only time that the character animation looks good is when their body is being ripped apart or if one of the female characters is naked. But for the rest of the time, the characters don't look really good.
I also wasn't a big fan of Elfen Lied's very overt and exploitive nudity, especially with some of its underage characters.
Some stuff works, like a naked Lucy slowly escaping a government facility while ripping the bodies of armed men apart, but more often than not, it'll show the naked bodies of underage female characters. Nana's body may make her look like she's 12 to 15, but she has the emotional mind of a 6-year-old. Mayu is like 10, they'll sometimes show the naked body of 5-year-olds, like with some of the Dicloniuses, or Lucy when she was younger. And even though Lucy is 18 years old, 15 in the manga, when she's new, she has the mentality of a little child, making scenes like this very uncomfortable.
But the nudity in the anime is nowhere as bad as it is in the manga, or as I like to call it, fetishes disguised as a deep and philosophical look at humanity. There is a 15-year-old girl who wears a diaper because she pees when she has anxiety or stresses out, and the art puts a big emphasis on this.
Elfen Lied's moments of fan service like panty shots and Niu fondling Yuka's breast for no reasons are really tonally off with the anime's moments of insane violence and attempts at deep analysis on humanity and extinction. Because of this, the anime's tone is always off. Some of the scenes just don't work well next to each other. In one episode, there can be a discussion on humanity and who is truly the biggest monster of the characters, and then have a scene where Yuka yells and hits Kota when he accidentally has a fan service moment with Niu.
These two contrasting tones don't work together, and just feel like two separate anime. But the biggest negative of Elfen Lied is that a majority of its characters are either bland, boring, or just have nothing to them that make them interesting. Now, some characters do work at times.
Some parts of Lucy's backstory are fascinating, but I think she would have worked more if she were more of an antagonist than a constantly shifting anti-hero. The anime wants me to sympathize with Lucy when bullies beat up a puppy as she's taken care of, or men kill a friend that she cared about, but Lucy in anger at different times will kill people that don't deserve it and have nothing to do with her. I can't root for a character like that. She's a fascinating character, but not really one that I feel any sadness for when she does such horrible things to innocent people. Bondo is a likable dick. He's an asshole, but he has a style to his morals. He likes to kill, but will willingly become indebted to someone if they save him, like Mayu. My favorite character, though, was Karuma, whose central episode was my favorite and had a backstory that was full of tragedy and sadness. It was fascinating how much of his humanity he was willing to give up in order to save the rest of humanity from the Dicloniuses.
He was easily the strongest character of the anime, and had a very satisfying conclusion to his arc in the last episode. The rest of the characters, however, are just bland and boring.
The villains are too stereotypical and evil and don't have anything else to them. People who bullied Lucy when she was young are extremely one-note. Mayu is nothing more than a young kid who ran away from home, and her backstory of her stepfather raping her multiple times is just really unnecessary. Nana has some moments here and there, but she isn't written in any interesting way that makes me want to follow her. Main character Kota is about as bland as they come. Not a clean slate for a male viewer to see themselves as, but his only personality trait is that he's nice, I guess. But the worst character of them all is his cousin Yuka, who has the personality trait of being a girl. Yeah, there's nothing to her, and she feels like she only exists for fan service moments and to be a part of the love triangle between her, Lucy/Niu, and Kota.
Oh yeah, you heard me right. The main romance in this involves incest.
Kissing cousins who make out heavily in one scene and at the end of the manga get married and have a kid.
That's, it's nice.
Seriously though, any scene that featured Kota and Yuka and their insensual romance completely lost me. Yuka would get jealous over Niu's affection towards Kota for literally no reason and always made me roll my eyes.
At the end of the day, Elfen Lied is just kind of boring. I've seen things in Elfen Lied done a million times better in other anime.
There's nothing thought-provoking in the anime to make it truly meaningful. 15 years later, Elfen Lied doesn't have anything in it that makes it truly unique. Not to mention that since the anime ended before the manga did, a lot of plot points were left unresolved and makes for a very unsatisfying final episode.
In the end, Elfen Lied just has too many bad elements in it to make it really any good. There are some highlights, but the majority of it just doesn't work nowadays. I definitely do see why people liked it back in 2004, but for a modern audience it doesn't work as well. And there are a ton of anime that do things that are in Elfen Lied 100 times better. If you want over-the-top gore and violence, watch Tokyo Ghoul or Hellsing Ultimate. Want government experiments with an examination on the depths of humanity? Watch Terran Renaissance or Monster. Want both over-the-top and violence while also having government experiments with an examination on the depths of humanity? Then watch the movie Akira. It's a legendary classic for a reason, and Elfen Lied definitely isn't. I'm going to give Elfen Lied a C-. It just hasn't aged well from when it first aired 15 years ago, and the manga is especially outdated with its various fetishes. However, I would be intrigued to see if someone did a modern retelling of the story, like with Devilman Crybaby. There's enough stuff in Elfen Lied that could work if someone modernized a lot of its elements and made it something new. But for this 2004 anime, it's an outdated cult classic that did inspire lots of things in the future.